This first podcast, I will be speaking about the new Barbie movie, the reactions to the film, and the feminism attached to it, as well as the article I recently wrote about it. I loved the Barbie movie, and it made me cry both times that I watched it in theaters. There were great moments that maybe weren't revolutionary, but were impactful to women around the world nonetheless. My critiques for the feminism in Barbie do not take away the powerful impact it has made. Despite all of this, it feels wrong to not critique the many lacking parts of the film and its message. I found Barbie to be disingenuous, shallow, basic Hollywood feminism at its best. And at its worst, it still played into the patriarchy that is so constantly made fun of. For instance, I felt that the film placed Barbieland and the Kingdom as two equally problematic societies. Of course, Barbieland wasn't perfect, but it was so glaringly obvious that the Kingdom was actively harming the Barbies, while in Barbieland, the Kens were simply overlooked. This isn't me saying that men shouldn't have equal rights to women, but I don't think that's what feminism is about. Feminism is about liberating women, creating safe spaces, and giving women chances. Saying this requires a discussion on intersectionality. Though there is a lot of discourse on it, I believe that intersectionality is important. But part of accepting it is knowing when some voices should be amplified and others should not. When we continue preaching equality, nothing ever becomes equal, and things will never be equal. But I think in order to combat that inevitable truth, we need to let communities speak in their moments, and we cannot interrupt what they need to say. A common argument when we talk about sexual violence and violence against women is that men experience violence too, and yes, they do. But it isn't the right time to talk about it. Most of the men, and sometimes even other people, saying that are rarely being genuine, and their only goal is to water down the very real experiences of women. And when their time comes to talk, they don't feel like talking anymore. What made me feel worse was seeing the reaction of men, of fathers, of boyfriends, of brothers, of husbands. The most simple, not offensive feminism was getting men all over the world bothered. Calling the movie misandry was so far-fetched that it almost made me laugh. Why is it so hard to accept women as human beings in society? What revolts you so much that the only way you will respect a woman is if she has sex with you? How dare you be so selfish, emotional, and reactive, and claim all of those traits are those of women's? It's baffling to know that men feel that way about feminism that coddled them like newborn babies. It talked down to them and tried to explain it in the nicest words, and they still couldn't take it, understand it, or accept it. Now to speak about the article I wrote. I truly struggled with writing it because I knew I couldn't write a 10-page long essay about it. Whenever I mentioned something, it probably deserved its own page of explanation, such as intersectionality and reverse feminism, which are such deep rabbit holes that I could go down forever. And despite my very bold title, I meant it. American Psycho had more quote-unquote true feminism than Barbie. We see the movie through Patrick Bateman, who had a disgusting view of the world and women throughout. We are meant to hate Bateman. There's scenes where Bateman treats women so terribly, and he's all in his head about it. We see the delusion in everything he does. It's glorified purely because that's how he's perceiving his sexual encounters or his murders. And yet, there's this phenomenon of men, and specifically boys, who just idolize Bateman and see him as this guru. And of course, there's a level of satire to the Sigma comments made, especially on TikTok. But it has unmistakably led some harmful, terrible, and disgusting mindsets of young boys, teenagers, and even somehow adult men. And like I said in my article, this cannot be blamed on the film itself, or the director, or the author of the book. It can only really be blamed on our very patriarchal society that has always pushed the view of the man as true and the view of the woman as dramatic or untrue. And it feels bad that Barbie, which was so sugar-coated to the point that it felt rotting as a feminist, was not misinterpreted but hated on. What is understood really says nothing, and what isn't understood says so much more than anyone cares to understand. American Psycho is such an important example of how feminism can be improved on in the media. And of course, it wasn't perfect in everything it did, but it was without a doubt a much larger step in the direction towards feminism in media in comparison to Barbie. American Psycho was more feminist than Barbie.